Hello YouTube. Today we're talking about the Eye of the World once again. Today is my discussion video. Now, this discussion video is going to contain spoilers up to the end of the Eye of the World. I will not cover what I already know of the Great Hunt and the Dragon Reborn because I want this to be as accessible as possible. However, I've already read all three of the first three books. So it's possible that I'll say something that might be spoilery, but I don't mean it to be a spoiler. It's just I already know what happens, but I'll try my best to keep it as spoiler-free as possible. I'll try to be very conscious of that fact, and keep to my lane, I guess. So today we're just going to go down the list of things. I used the wiki to divide this video into 4 sections. We're going to go over the prologue really quickly, then 2 rivers to Shadar, Logoth, then Logoth to CAEMLYN, and then CAEMLYN to the Eye of the World, and we'll talk about the ending. And I'll leave timestamps in the description, so this video is going to be split into sections, and you can just jump to the section you like to hear my thoughts on it. Hopefully you guys enjoy, and you guys share with me what you think of the Eye of the World, what you enjoyed, what you didn't enjoy, and if I have any questions or say anything wrong, please feel free to correct me, to share the answers with me, and to, overall, just help me experience the Wheel of Time a little bit better than I already have. So I've already read this book a few times, and I just finished rereading it the other day. If you want to see my review, it's up here. Go check it out. It's the second video on the playlist journey through the Wheel of Time, but it's actually the first video in the series. The one before that is a prologue, kind of introducing myself to the Wheel of Time community. Now let's just jump into it. So the prologue here is one of my favorite parts of the book. I really love the whole thing between Lewis Theron Thelamon and Ishamael, right? That's his name? Whoever the bad guy is. And I love the taint on the magic. It's not clear at the beginning, but he does mention that there's a taint, that his that his beloved Sidene is tainted. And I love the feeling that the prologue gives off. It's so epic and grand scale, and it feels, like I've said a few times, like the end, the last little finishing touches on a creation story, on the story that defines how the modern world of the story is. And I really love that. I wanted to say it feels biblical, but I don't know if that's allowed. I don't know if I can say that, but hopefully you guys understand what I'm trying to say. It feels mystical, mythical. It feels monolithically important, and I love that. I think it's really cool. It's also interesting that it ends with such a powerful thing, like Lewis Theron just moving mountains and creating a mountain out of nothing. That's so cool. It's crazy how awesome it is. I really hope that when they make the TV show, they add that at the beginning, and like the last scene in the prologue when Lewis Theron Thelamon is, changing the landscape, they can make that the intro of the series. I think that'd be super cool. Or maybe just like a snake going through the Wheel of Time, I guess. But yeah, I always thought that would be a super cool scene to see in the TV show. Now, let's talk about the 2 rivers to Shadar, Logoth. This is the beginning, the first, 200 and something pages, more or less. So I really love how it opens. I like that it slows down. It was a big monolithic event at the beginning in the prologue, and then this is very zeroed in on one young man. I think that's super cool. I think it works really well. Although it really sets him up as the main character, like really off the bat. And I know Rand is the main character. And because I've read further on, I know more stuff. But it's supposed to be a mystery, and it doesn't feel like much of a mystery. But I don't know, that might just be because I already know what happens, and rereading it is like, okay, all of this foreshadowing is like super blatant now that I think about it, but that might just be me. So we open up with Rand and Tam going to Emond's Field, and I think here it's really good because you get a lot of world building and exposition in a way that makes it not feel like an info dump. Oh, okay, it kind of feels like an info dump, but it's one that makes sense within the context of the story, and I really like that. It's Rand going back to town and remembering stuff that's happened before, as well as finding out what's current now because he hasn't been in town or in the village in a long time. I think they hadn't been there all winter, so it's been at least 3 months since he's seen the people of the town. So it's nice how that works. And then with the addition of Tom and Moraine and Lan, you get a lot of extra, and Panna and Fane as well. You get a lot of extra world building that feels contextual. And it's not just like, hey, here's 200 pages of what feels like a history textbook that you have to read before you get into the story. I like how it's broken up and turned into part of the process or the plot line, I guess, if that makes sense. I guess a lot of authors do that already, but it just feels really nice and very well executed, I guess, in this one, and I really like that. Then we get Rand and Tam to go back home, and then, they get attacked by the Trollocs. Trollocs? I don't know. Pronouncing fantasy things is very difficult sometimes. But it's fun, I guess. So yeah, lots of world building at the beginning. The attack by the Trollocs is interesting. I like how it sets up that Rand has no ability with a sword, but over the course of the book, you see him become more sure. And with the cyclical nature of the Wheel of Time, it's like, is someone that he has been before a swordsman? And so he's like slowly assimilating those things, or kind of how does that work? And it's really interesting. But I love the sense of urgency that Rand has. He literally does not stop running. He literally does not stop running to town, and it's super urgent, but it's still super futile because it takes him all night to cover what's like an hour's worth of time, or an hour's worth of distance, if I remember correctly. And it's super well executed. Again, I enjoy that whole like give and take with Moraine and with the townspeople. Aes Sedai are not necessarily evil, but because they're so much more powerful than everyone else, they kind of keep to themselves, and they kind of see the world differently. And that's kind of interesting because it provides a lot of friction between people and Aes Sedai. And they don't really like try to minimize the effect that they develop by being so aloof. It's kind of weird. You would assume that people that are so powerful would want to minimize how much people hate them, because no matter how powerful you are, if enough people hate you, they can get rid of you rather easily. But they don't, and I don't get why, but it's interesting nonetheless. I think it adds a little bit of presence to Moraine's character, that she's so aloof, that she doesn't care. And I love the whole world building aspect when she twirls her freaking staff and goes off on a tangent about Manatharan. I think that was really interesting. I really like that, and it kind of helps to highlight the cyclical nature of the Wheel of Time again, because she mentions Manatharan, and then Matt Perrin and Rand start mentioning battle chants or battle cries that involve Manathirin as they, what's it called, go into battle during the book. So really interesting as well right there. Now the leave taking was cool. When they finally leave the village, it's so classic epic fantasy, and I love it. I really enjoy just how it works. I really like that because it's so relatable. Okay, it's not directly relatable. I've never had to run away from home to escape some like beastmen, right? But leaving your home in order to grow, in order to develop, right? Because most of these main characters are young men that have to develop a skill in order to win the war against the encroaching evil. Makes so much sense. It's so easy to identify with as a young person that has to go to college or has to leave their house, their home, in order to develop, in order to grow. And it's really resonating. I like that part of epic fantasy. I hope that it doesn't ever get old or get boring, but I guess it will eventually when I grow older and stuff has to change for me, when I'm looking to settle down instead of leave the nest. But I'm liking this a lot. I enjoyed Tom's character a lot as well. I love how he's just so full of himself, but he kind of deserves it, and it's fun. It's enjoyable to just see this like really old he's not like a boomer, but he's like this old dude that just like doesn't give a crap, and I love that. I think that's a very fun character to have. I love Lan as well. I think he's like the least explored of the characters. Like, he has a backstory. We get a backstory for him, but even though he's not as explored as everyone else, he's still meaningful. I guess he becomes less meaningful in the future since he's really not that important. But I like him a lot as a character. And I love that moment. Well, it's a little early now to talk about it, but he has a cool moment with Nynaeve, and I'm like, damn, dude, you got game. But who cares? Yeah, they get chased by Trollocs again. And then they meet Min, which is an interesting character as well. She's kind of like a tomboy, and I like that. But I don't really understand her character, and I do know more about her since I've read 2 and 3. But in this first book, she's just kind of there to foreshadow. And maybe that's her function in every book, but it really feels like there's a lot more to her in this book, and you just don't get to see any of it because she got left behind. It would have been interesting if she went with them. And then I love that Nynaeve just randomly pops up, and she's like, hey, what the hell? I'm going to take you guys back home right now. And I love that part where Nynaeve and Moraine are staring at each other, and Matt and Perrin and Rand are just like, we should leave, but we are not going to. And Rand is like, no, I'm going to be a big guy, a big boy, and I'm going to go and like interact with them so that they don't kill each other. I thought that was really funny, and I hope, well, it shouldn't be comedic in the show. It should really be a tense moment. But I can just imagine Barney Harris, the character, the guy that plays Matt, is going to have like a funny expression on his face as they kind of all sit down, and it's going to be very enjoyable to watch. And then Shadar Logoth, which was interesting. It's very cool. It's a very standard trope as well. You're on a journey, and then you have to stop somewhere, and the only place to stop is like this really evil spot, and you just have to deal with it. It's cool. I like the Shadar, I think it was like the black wave of stuff. I don't know what it was, but I thought that was enjoyable. Now, I do want to talk about the characters and how I envision them in my head. I think it's relevant right now, especially with the TV show. And it was something that I wanted to talk about before when the initial cast of characters was announced. But I didn't have a platform back then, so I want to talk about it now. Now, the first time I read it, I imagined them as you know, the Emmonsfielders. Like, Rand is obviously very Nordic, and he doesn't look anything like Tam. They mention explicitly at the very beginning, Rand has very little of his dad, except maybe his width of shoulders and his height, or his, like, strength, or something like that. He's very different from the rest of the Emmonsfielders. But he's not so different that he doesn't completely fit in. Like, the only thing they, like, okay, I think he's completely different, but I was pretty sure that he wasn't that different, that it was, like, weird for him to be part of Emmonsfield, but whatever. I mean, a lot of stuff happens in between Logoth to the end, to the Eye of the World, where he gets called an Aleman, or a Yeelman, but we don't know what that is yet, so whatever. But yeah, so he was very clearly tall, Nordic, and red-haired with blue eyes. Everyone else was just described as brown. And because it's an epic fantasy, it's very Europe-centric. I always imagine that to be like somewhere between Greek and Spanish. Or, well, a little bit lighter than me, basically. I'm not a white passing brown person, but I'm not that dark either. And I would always assume that they were on the lighter side of a color palette similar to mine. You know, like Greek or Italian people in the summer. And that's what I thought originally. But now looking at them, now that I have seen some of the people that are cast, you know, the casting for Egwene kind of makes a lot more sense. But I'm not really sure. I never, it's not like I have ever cared what my characters look like, or what the characters that I enjoy look like. Although they usually are white, and I'm like, I would like if some of them were brown, but I don't really care. I don't know. I like the diversity that they're bringing in. But yeah, it was just an interesting thought that that crossed my mind. It's just, I thought of them as more like Southern European or like Mediterranean. But I guess something more shooting to Middle Eastern or Indian kind of makes sense as well. I'm not really sure. I don't really care either. It's just a thing that I just thought about. So yeah, we're gonna talk from Shadar Logoth to CAEMLYN, which is the middle part of the book, and it's also the part of the book that annoys me the most, because there's 3 storylines that we're following here. We're following Mat, Rand, and Tom, and then we're following Egwene and Perrin and Elias, and then we're following Moray, Lan, and Nynaeve. And 2 of these are good, and the other one is boring as hell. So Mat, Rand, and Tom is slow and boring. Nothing happens except Mat is like slowly going crazy, which is fair, I guess. It's somewhat interesting and it builds characters, but oh my god, it's so boring. It doesn't get good until they get to CAEMLYN, until these 3 make it to, Mat and Rand make it to CAEMLYN, and Tom, he's obviously not dead. Like, I never thought he was dead, even the first time I read it. I was like, well, just because he fought the guy doesn't mean he's dead, right? And if he was, you would, like, have gotten a perspective of him, like, dying. I feel like you would have. But yeah, I don't think he's dead. There was not enough there to really be like, yeah, he died. So yeah, Mat and Rand, boring storyline until they get to CAEMLYN. Then when they bring in Loyal and Rand goes to see Logain, which is going to be an awesome scene. Alvaro Morte is gonna be Logain in the Amazon Prime series, and I'm really excited for that. He played the professor in Money Heist, if you guys are unsure who that is, and I'm really excited to see him play something different. Most of the things he plays are just like an intelligent guy that's somewhat shy and awkward usually, and I'm really excited to see him as someone different. I'm really excited to see what happens. So yeah, I really like when Rand meets Elaine. I thought that was a really fun interaction. I really like her as a character. There's not much to her yet, but she's really enjoyable. I don't know, for some reason I just loved the interaction she had. The way she's so like oh yeah, I'm the queen, or like, well, the princess, and I own shit, but she's like down to earth at the same time. It's really interesting, and I like Gawain and Galad. I don't know. They were kind of interesting, but there wasn't much to them. And more gays was cool as well. So, yeah, Brand gets in trouble with the ladies. Now, the Egwene and Perrin storyline was my favorite. Up until they got to the White Cloaks, that was really annoying, because the White Cloaks are like unnecessarily evil. They're like religious cultists, basically, and it's kind of annoying. Like, I guess it makes sense, but they're like so ridiculously in their own head, and it's kind of stupid. I don't love them as, you know, an entity, but Egwene and Perrin were really fun to follow. I like the whole time they spent with the Tinkers. It really develops character for Perrin, because you would think that Perrin, a slow, methodical, careful person, would agree with the way of the leaf. But he's completely against it. He's like, no, screw that crap. It's stupid to not want to protect yourself, to be so passive that you allow people to kill you. That's really ridiculous. And I agree with him, I think. But it was interesting. And I liked the whole like situation with Egwene. I don't love her as a character in this book. She's kind of very mid-tier average. But her whole like thing with the Tinkers was interesting. And I love the ending where she's like, Aram's grandma was teaching me how to be a woman, and Parents like, what? That's so weird. Men don't ask each other how to be men. And then she's like, yeah, maybe that's why you guys suck at it. I thought that was fucking hilarious. That was so funny. Very good. Egwene has a lot of lip, and I love that. I really like Elias. He's like a werewolf-esque kind of character, and I enjoy that a lot. Werewolves are super cool. And this is kind of like between a werewolf and a berserker, and I thought that was super interesting. Really enjoy how Robert Jordan just kind of mixes and mashes things and just makes it work. I really like that. Yeah, Children of the Light, they're just asshats, man. They're just so stupid, and they're like so far up their own ideology that they're, you know, lacking some brain cells. I really don't like them. And yeah, so Moraine, Lan, and Nynaeve, the third group that we're following, was pretty mid-tier. There wasn't anything particularly special, but at least it wasn't boring, which is better than Matt and Rand. I enjoyed the dynamic between Moraine and Nynaeve. They're two powerful women. One is powerful in terms of a village, and the other one is powerful in terms of the whole world, but they're still two powerful, clear pillars of individualism, I guess. And it's interesting to see Nynaeve kind of crumble under the sheer presence or power of like knowledge that Moraine represents. And it was really interesting how their relationship kind of worked. Like I don't think they like each other, or Moraine thinks of Nynaeve as like a pest, a rather important pest, but a pest nonetheless. And Nynaeve is like, oh, I hate her because she's so much more than me, kind of. Well, there's also the fact that she kind of like put her people in danger, and she doesn't like that. But I think the important part to me was the fact that Nynaeve felt so inadequate around Moraine. And that's kind of difficult because Nynaeve is someone that's used to being above and beyond. So I thought that was cool. And I like how Lan is like, who do I choose? What do I do? I'm liking this chick, but Moraine is like my owner, essentially. My owner / boss. And he's like being pulled both ways. And I love Nynaeve and Lan's interaction. That whole like, are they falling in love? Are they just respecting each other? What's going on? And I think that was probably my favorite romance subplot in the whole book. Really enjoyable. And now CAEMLYN to the Eye of the World. The whole thing with the ways was really interesting. I like the world building there of the fact that Aes Sedai, male and female, created the ways, or I think it was just the males. And they forgot to account for the fact that the ways were made with magic, and magic was tainted for them. Like, stupid idiots. And then it like made the ways wrong, which is interesting. Shinar is an interesting country as well. It's interesting because it's different from CAEMLYN, or well, Andor, I guess. And it felt kind of different and a lot more grounded than Andor. I don't know what it's supposed to be based on. Maybe China or like Japan, something like that. Something a little bit more Eastern. They have like samurai-esque armor. I like that a lot. The battle at the end was a little confusing. Like, I'm not sure what's happening. And then those like italicized caps letters, I don't know who that's supposed to be. I think the consensus is that it's God, or the creator, I guess, the guy that built the wheel. But I was reading it and I was like, well, I guess I can't talk about it right now because that'd be spoilers for the future. I thought it was like someone from Rand's past lives that was like controlling him and being like, hey man, if you're gonna do this, you got to beat the shit out of these guys or whatever, you know? And yeah, the battle really sets Rand as the main character. And I don't know, is it spoilers to say that Rand is a dragon reborn? Because it's very clear at the end of this book, like, he can channel. He's the first character introduced after Lewis Theron Thelamon. He is the one we follow for the most part of the book. He has a lot more interactions with Balsamon than the rest of the boys. And he's the only one that doesn't have any special effects on him. Matt has the stupid dagger, which is annoying. And Matt was stupid to grab it. And then Perrin has the wolf brother thing. Rand's the only one that doesn't have anything until he gets to channel the one power. So, like, obviously, he's a dragon, right? Like, it computes, especially at the end, when Moraine is like, oh god, the dragon's reborn, really ominously, after she hears Rand and Egwene talking. So, like, he's a dragon, right? It's not a spoiler to say that. And if it is, yell at me and I'll come back and re-upload the video, I guess. Or I'll put a warning somewhere being like, hey, this is where spoilers start. But I'm pretty sure it's not a spoiler. Like, it's very clear that Rand is the dragon. But yeah, so that was my thoughts. I really like this story. I really enjoy it. It was overall really fun and compelling. The only boring part is Matt, Rand, and Tom and their whole like journey on a boat. And we gotta walk from one village to the next. That was just annoying. It was okay the first time I read it, but this time I was like, oh god, I don't care. You're just walking. It's annoying and it's boring and there's nothing happening. But yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Please comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of The Eye of the World. Did I say something that was wrong? Was I any more spoilery than I thought I was going to be? You know, just let me know anything you guys want to. And hopefully I see you guys in a few weeks when I review The Great Hunt. And then a week later after that when I do the discussion video for The Great Hunt. The Great Hunt is my favorite out of the 3 books that I've read. So I'm really excited to get to rereading it. As you guys can see, it's right there. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. And I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys later.